Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we are diving deep into an incredibly important speech by President Cyril Ramaphosa, one that could redefine the way we think about South Africa's economic future. In a bold and refreshing address, the president dismantled an old and divisive myth that economic growth and social transformation are opposing goals. According to Ramaphosa, these two objectives are not only compatible, they are inseparable. He argues that real, sustainable growth can only happen through transformation. And that's what we're going to explore today. Now, before we get into the details, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave us your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree that economic growth and transformation should go hand in hand? We want to hear your views. President Ramaphosa's remarks come at a pivotal time. South Africa stands at a crossroads. The nation is still reeling from decades of apartheid-era economic exclusion, widespread unemployment, and deep structural inequality. Many of the systems and institutions that shaped our current economy were never built with fairness or inclusion in mind. For years, economic development was measured by GDP growth, without necessarily considering who was benefiting from that growth. As a result, entire communities, particularly Black South Africans, women, and the youth, were left behind. Ramaphosa is not the first leader to talk about inclusive growth, but what makes his recent comments different is the clarity and urgency with which he links transformation to economic survival. He stated, "We must dispense with the false notion that we must choose between growth and transformation. The growth of our economy will happen through transformation. That is a reality. Let that sink in." This is not just a rhetorical flourish, it's a fundamental rethinking of how South Africa should approach development moving forward. This vision is grounded in the belief that transformation isn't some abstract ideal or political favor, it's the practical engine that will drive South Africa's prosperity. Transformation, in this context, means broadening economic participation. It means giving historically marginalized communities a real stake in the economy. It means more equitable land ownership, increased access to quality education, Black industrialists taking up more space in the formal economy, women-owned enterprises being funded, and youth being empowered with digital skills and infrastructure. Critically, it also means dismantling the monopolistic structures that still dominate many sectors of our economy. From banking to telecommunications, a handful of corporations continue to hold disproportionate power, often at the expense of small businesses and informal traders. Ramaphosa is effectively saying, we cannot grow a nation while excluding its majority from participating meaningfully in its economy. This is where the policy element comes in. Government, according to Ramaphosa, has a central role to play in creating the conditions necessary for inclusive growth. That means developing policies that don't just boost figures on a spreadsheet but also open up real opportunities on the ground. Think infrastructure investment that targets rural areas. Think industrial policy that favors local manufacturing. Think about state-owned enterprises being restructured not only for efficiency, but to ensure they serve the developmental needs of society. Now, some critics may argue that transformation-focused policies risk scaring off investors or placing too much burden on businesses. But the opposite may actually be true. Experts increasingly agree that economies that are more inclusive tend to be more stable and resilient. When more people are economically active, when they have purchasing power, when they pay taxes, when they start businesses, the economy grows in a much more sustainable and consistent way. It's not charity, it's smart economics. In fact, several development economists have highlighted that inequality, especially in a country as unequal as South Africa, acts as a drag on growth. It fuels crime, social unrest, and political instability. And let's be honest, without a strong, inclusive middle class, South Africa will remain vulnerable to shocks, both internal and external. So when Ramaphosa says transformation is the engine of growth, he's not just making a political statement, he's laying out a vision that aligns with global best practices and economic logic. But the president's speech also comes with an implied challenge. It's not just government that must do better. The private sector, too, needs to reflect deeply on its role. Are businesses doing enough to create jobs, especially for young people? Are they investing in skills development? Are they giving Black South Africans a real seat at the table in ownership and decision-making? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones. Because without this buy-in, the vision of a transformed, growing economy will remain just that, a vision. Ramaphosa's call to action is for all stakeholders, government, business, civil society, and ordinary citizens, to recognize that transformation is not a cost. It's an investment. And like any good investment, it may take time, but it will yield results if done with integrity, consistency, and transparency. Of course, words are only as strong as the actions that follow. South Africans are understandably skeptical of big promises that don't translate into tangible change. We've heard many speeches before. What will matter most is the implementation of policies that reflect this new way of thinking. For instance, how will the government measure transformation? Will empowerment initiatives be tied to performance metrics? Will procurement practices be restructured to truly benefit Black-owned SMEs and not just a politically connected elite? The answers to these questions will determine whether Ramaphosa's vision becomes reality or fades into the background of South Africa's long history of delayed reforms. And let's not forget, 2025 is a turning point. With local elections looming, political parties are under pressure to present credible solutions to an electorate that is tired of empty rhetoric. This makes the president's speech not only a policy statement but a political commitment, one that could shape the ANC's future as much as the country's. In closing, let's reflect on this: South Africa's future doesn't lie in choosing between growth or transformation. That's a false choice. Our future lies in understanding that these two objectives are deeply intertwined. Real transformation will drive real growth. And real growth will only be sustainable if it is inclusive. So as we look ahead, let us not fall into the trap of thinking we can fix the economy without fixing the inequalities within it. Let us instead rise to the challenge, as a nation, to do both, together. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this video informative, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you never miss a post. And let us know in the comments, do you think South Africa is ready to embrace transformation as a path to growth? See you next time.